exciting.
Where no one here is teaching.
Nary a soul.
This is a rare episode where we didn't accidentally call a teacher to actively come on this podcast.
And by we, I mean redacted.
Certain people may keep accidentally inviting current teachers on here.
But they're always so fun.
I know, I always have a reason for doing it.
I trust you blindly, 10 times out of 10.
I trust you blindly.
Aww.
The amount of times that I have opened our recording link and been like, oh my god, I follow that person, because I didn't even look and
prepare
see what we were doing.
Sounds so familiar.
And on today's episode, we have another person I follow. We will allow our guests to introduce themselves.
Hi, I am Jessica. I left teaching last March.
Mazel tov. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I love a mid-year leave.
But you were like close to the end and you left. Some shit went down.
It went down. I mean, I had a death in my family that like rocked me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And no, it's okay. And I needed space. And of course you can't get that teaching. And so my plan was to take like a leave of absence and get it together and go back. And then I left and was like, wait a minute.
You're like, wait, this is way better.
Hold on a minute. I don't have to go back. Oh yeah, it was messy. It was ugly. It was I would call it traumatizing. But by like the end of June, I had another job and I don't know, everything kind of fell into place. So.
And you were teaching for...
It was my 17th year, yeah. And I had worked 16 of those in the same district.
Oh, yeah. You were very familiar with them.
Yes.
Were you at the same school that whole time?
It's hard to say school because our building changed. There's been so much change. So when I was hired in my district, there were 2 high schools. Then they merged. So then I went to the new high school. But our 9th graders didn't fit in that building. So I was at the new high school teaching 10 through 12. Then they were like, actually, we need you in 9th. So then I went down to a junior high, which I had never been in a 7, 8, 9 building and never want to again.
Yeah, I don't.
That's what I went to.
Yeah.
I was one of those little goblins.
Those usually don't have great reviews, the 7, 8, 9 buildings.
0 out of 10 would not recommend. I did that for a few years. Then 9th got pulled back up. So then I went back up and they built a brand new school. Last year was our 2nd year in the brand new building. And I was like, deuces.
You're like, I actually hate what you've done with the place. You thought that the paint colors were going to make it up to me, and it's not working the way we thought it was going to. So I'm going to depart.
Yeah.
This was great.
It's been real.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I do want to ask, because people always say, once you're teaching for so long, you're not going to be able to leave. Like, you're going to need to stay because your pension, because of your salary schedule. Was that a thought that you were like, oh my God, I can't leave?
Yeah,
like,
I now look back at feeling very trapped because of all of that. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I still haven't figured that all out. You know, everyone's like, call the state. I'm like, what does that mean?
they always say call the fucking state for everything.
I am currently trying to get my retirement money away from the state, and every time I call them, they tell me I have to sign a form and then mail it to them, but they don't have the form. A private company has the form.
Of course.
So I would recommend not even opening that can of worms.
I mean, I figure it's probably not going anywhere, question mark. So
It's illegal for them to take it, I think, probably.
And the government would never do anything illegal.
no, never.
Not even one time.
No, but it'll be fine, Jess. It'll be fine.
The State Department of Education just gets everything right. So I'm not worried at all.
No, you shouldn't. Have full trust in the government. That's this podcast slogan.
The government, we have full trust.
Yep.
So you taught in between 9th, 10th, 11th, that kind of area. What subject did you teach, or did you move around?
English.
English.
Yeah.
Ooh, I was very bad at doing that. We appreciate your work and your service.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of grading.
It's a lot of essays.
It's very labor intensive.
To read the same essay that's not great many times, I feel like would wear on you.
I mean, probably why I'm so nuts.
You just slipped slowly into madness.
I mean, I cannot tell you how much I identify with Edgar Allan Poe, like on a personal level. I get it. You know, I do. Like, I feel like people look at him like he was insane, but I bet at one point he was happy. I would even say he was probably at some point joyous. And then
he taught 9th grade English.
I like to picture a happy Edgar Allan Poe that just morphed into the one we know. And that's me.
The next time we see you, you have like a little hat and a raven on your shoulder.
A mustache. Actually, at my new job, I do work very closely with a crow. So it is happening already.
Yes. Pardon me.
Step 1 is completed.
With a crow?
Yeah, I work at the zoo. So
Oh, fun!
yeah.
Is it a raven or a crow?
It's a crow. His name is Jinx. I love him.
God, does he do tricks?
No, but I mean, I go into his house with him and we hang out. Like,
Oh my god.
Like a true villain origin story.
You know, my mom has a friend crow that visits her yard.
Oh, I believe it.
He brings her presents, of course.
Yes,
obviously.
of course.
He brought her a fish carcass a couple times.
Oh,
and she
very nice.
didn't like that. But one day, he brought her like a slice of pie. And I was like, are you a woodland, like, what is this magical crow?
No, they're so smart. They are very, very, very intelligent and freaking hilarious. I mean, a pie is a nice gesture.
I know.
My husband doesn't even bring me pie.
Right?
Your mom has a crow.
I know. Well, she actually had to sign a new lease at a new place, and she cried because she had to leave the crow behind. And I was like, he will find you.
We could trap it.
No.
The backyard has rats now, so that's a whole different. Nobody cares. Why am I telling you?
I care.
No, I'm interested because I think the crow would help out with the rat.
I know.
No, this feels like it could be a really nicely functioning ecosystem.
My mom was like, "Don't you have rats?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" She was like, from the fruit trees in your backyard. I'm like,
You wish.
No, Mom. But she lives next to a high school, so I do think.
Oh, that's why she has rats. Oh my God, it always comes back to school.
It does.
I taught with rats, so I get
A
it.
lot of rat coming up in episode recently. Our last guest also had rats in their classroom.
I just edited that segment. It was so sad.
I'll give you a little fun story. So in our what do they call it now? Consumer sciences class, they preheated the oven and smelled something, and here they cooked a rat in the oven. That was the last time I ever ate anything.
I am unwell.
No, there was a lot of mice, rats, and roaches and things. What a message it sends to our youth.
It's a metaphor.
Debatably, what that class was teaching them is survival skills, because you never know when the apocalypse is going to come, and that's your best food source.
Right, you're gonna have to
Now
eat it.
they know that that's a possibility. My mom was telling me that was it the military? I don't know. Some like high-ranking thing in the military. They were going to go in the jungle. I don't fucking know. And they hired this professional chef to like make bugs for them and made them eat them, because they were like, if you've eaten a bug before, then when you're in the wild, you'll be like, I can do this, and it won't stress you out as much. So that's just what the high school was doing.
And they say school doesn't teach you anything that you can apply in life.
The life skills.
Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and you can eat a rat if you need to. So back to you, Jess. What happened that made you leave? Like, while you were on leave, were you just literally like, oh, this is better and I'm gonna go?
No, it was I was in counseling. I really truly thought she was going to coach me back into it, and she made it very apparent that it was unhealthy, toxic. I mean, I really owe it all to her. I was shocked. It had never dawned on me that it was as bad as I thought it was. I think I thought I was going to hear I had to get my head right and get back in there. You can do this.
Well, that's what they tell us all the time.
Yeah.
They're like, if you're taking 2 bubble baths a week and taking a nice brisk walk after work, that is enough self-care for us to abuse you. So did you fucking miss one this week? Like, what's the problem?
I have a Z last name and they always fucking forget me. So even the like lukewarm bottle of water with like the label that says like we're all in this together, I wouldn't get it. I didn't even want it, but I didn't get it.
No, that's so valid. I'd be mad too. Like, I don't want it, but fuck you.
Or like somehow my mailbox was always smaller because like from W on they were smaller.
It's like the half mailbox is like the dates at the end of the month that gets split into 2.
I just so frequently didn't get things because they were like it didn't fit.
Fuck them! Oh my god!
So here's the best part. Of course, in typical school fashion, if I missed something important in my mailbox, but they had put it in the wrong mailbox, it was still on me, like
fault.
Everyone knows you're supposed to check the 2 before yours and after yours in case someone put it in the wrong spot.
or check the
my
trash
God.
can in case it didn't fit. Maybe they just threw it in the trash.
It's no wonder when you went to counseling, you were like, this person's going to tell me to pull myself up by my bootstraps and get back in the game. Like, because that's what...
I really did.
That's what they do to us.
I spent the months like trying to wrap my head around not going back, which hadn't occurred to me on my own while I was in there. And then it became something else. So this is a part that's really hard to share only because it became such a complicated mess.
And you don't have to if you don't want to.
And feel free to spark notes it.
I never would spark notes anything
yeah.
in my life.
Shit,
Never.
sorry. I forgot that's a sensitive topic for your community.
Yes, please.
Respect her as an English teacher, redacted.
Thank you.
Respect the English teacher culture.
Meanwhile, I would just take students aside and go, for the love of God, just read the spark notes. Like, constantly.
I actually got in a screaming match with my 11th grade teacher because we were reading Shakespeare, and I was using the No Fear Shakespeare because I'm very not good at
I love
reading.
No Fear Shakespeare.
He held up my book and he threw it across the room. This man was one for the dramatics. Hope you're listening to this.
Men are allowed to do that, by the way. They can throw stuff around the room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When they do it, it's to make a point. When we do it, she needs desperate help.
We're fucking nuts.
I have so many teachers who did that.
He threw it and he was like, you shouldn't be reading this. It dilutes the blah, 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 the meaning, the this. And I literally stood up in the classroom and I said, if you as my teacher are going to tell me not to use something that helps me understand it, what does that say about you? And then I got sent to the office.
Redacted, I am so proud of you. And unfortunately for all of us, you have stumbled upon one of my special interests. So buckle the fuck up. So here's the thing about Shakespeare. So my brother is actually in a high school English class right now where they said all you can use is our version of the text, nothing else. You cannot listen to anything. You cannot use SparkNotes. You cannot use a video, nothing. And I flipped the fuck out because Shakespeare originally was for poor people and it was called going to hear a play. It was not going to see a play. You were there to hear a play.
Right.
So if you're going to understand Shakespeare, you're going to be watching it and listening to it because there is so much of the text that you can only understand. Redacted, are you listening to me?
I am, and I went to the Shakespeare place where they gave me this spiel.
Fuck him. Yeah. People get so pretentious with it.
Oh, I hate it.
But like it wasn't a pretentious thing. It makes me so mad.
Redacted and I were talking before you hopped on, like working for people who don't understand, I mean, really anything, like life or marriage or
children.
And the way that Redacted, you teach history, I don't think really resonates with people that traditionally taught history. Like, memorize these dates and these battles.
I was a terrible fucking history teacher for the first 2 weeks of school. I just taught the way I
was taught,
which was someone talking at me. And like, granted, I had much more of a gravitas and a sense of humor than the average bear to it.
Of course you do. Are you
kidding? But those kids were still just hearing a person talk at them for a pretty extended amount of time. Yeah. And then I watched someone else do a model lesson and it just like clicked for me. And then I was like, oh, hands-on. And then I was like good after that.
Which hands-on history sounds like it shouldn't even exist in the same sentence because of how foreign that concept is to my brain.
Mine too. I didn't have a decent history teacher in ever.
The way I just want to gather everyone on Earth into a conference room and do coloring book timelines with all of you.
Coloring book timelines? Please explain what that is. So
like we'd have like a timeline of World War II and then it would have like a little box for each important event and you'd write like the event and then you'd like draw or color in, depending on how much effort Miss Redacted wanted to put into it, something it meant to you that stood out to you, and then you write a little description. And then at the end, you have a timeline of the whole war with all your little pictures so you can like see what's happening.
Every time you talk about teaching, I want to burst into tears because you're so good at it. It makes me sick.
So our lovely tangent of SparkNotes to World War II timelines. What was the complicated mess of you being like, oh, it's not a leave, it's a leaving?
It's more like I don't talk about it because it's so shocking. My husband's always like, I can't believe these people exist that I worked for. And they were newer to my district. So when I requested my leave of absence, I kid you not, they were like, well, we think we have grounds to fire you.
Oh.
And I'm like, I don't understand. So no on the FMLA. I don't know what's happening.
You were like, it's a really interesting timing of you to bring that up for the first time right now.
They tried to deny my FMLA too.
Yeah.
And I was like, pardon?
It was very dumb on their part. Because of the way they went about it, I ended up just taking like regular sick time. And in my district, they still allowed donation. And so all my friends were like, here you go. So I ended up getting paid, you know what I mean? Like a full amount. The way our contract works, you know, you're paid over the 12 months for the work you do. So then when I started my new job, I was getting 2 paychecks.
Nice.
So it ended in a resignation, but the in-between of all that shit was a freaking mess because I was leaving because I was not well, but then they're simultaneously trying to call me into meetings about what I don't know. I kid you not, I was called into one about the depth of my tan in a picture. They were insistent that I left a day earlier for vacation. I don't fucking know. Honest to God, there was so much stuff that was thrown at me, and it was like a very low point for me because I felt so out of control of what was happening, but I'm still almost like piecing together all the other shit that went down.
That's very real. I had a very traumatic and chaotic quitting experience, and I've only like told the entire story like start to finish probably 2 or 3 times ever, and every time I tell it, I'm like, did that happen first or did that happen first? What did this person do?
Yeah.
Because in the moment, I feel feel like the best way to describe the way it feels is it kind of feels like you're like a little rag doll on a playground being thrown around by multiple children. So you just like don't even really know what's going on because you're just being ripped around and you're like, bitch, what the fuck? Like, because everyone's mad at you and screaming at you and like they're doing illegal things and then they're trying to say that you did something illegal because they're doing something illegal.
Yes, the gaslighting.
And you're like, wait, I didn't do crime. Like, how'd that come out?
I didn't do crime.
I didn't. Y'all are the ones doing crime. I just talked about it.
No, it's all gaslighting. It's all like, what if she comes after us? Let's go after her for stuff that we did, but we'll just say she did it.
They're like, that one time that we tried to do a testing thing illegally, you didn't tell us to stop and you were there. And I'm like, how the fuck is that my fault?
Oh God, girl. I know. I know.
It makes me ill to think about people sitting in a classroom being like, okay, we need to fire this person. What do you got? Because there's no way that that didn't occur. I know that happened at my first school. They fired one of my friends. She's gonna listen. Hi. And the reason they gave was like she had a master's degree and too much experience, so they had to, for quote unquote budgetary purposes, collapse a bunch of classes and kick her out of the school in the middle of the year. Like,
only in education do they take a budget crisis and they're like, I think the most logical thing is to fire our most qualified staff members. I think that is the best course of action.
And that's something I've actually heard in Southern California a few times, of like, if you're going to get your master's, you should probably do it when you're well established within a school and you have tenure, because it's going to be difficult for you to get hired as a first year teacher with a master's. They want to hire first year teachers that are cheaper. And that just to me is bonkers. I don't understand it.
The whole system is bonkers.
I'm so sorry that happened to you. That should not have taken place, especially while you were like mourning and on bereavement. Like, that's crazy.
Well, thanks for caring.
That makes two whole people.
Only a fucking monster wouldn't care.
You were talking about this on TikTok the other day of like kind of how you saw the classroom change in regards to like joy in the classroom, because you were there for 17 years. So I'm curious like what trends you noticed or changes you noticed. Did things get better, worse, different?
I can pinpoint where everything started to change and then it just continued to spiral. I'm married to a non-teacher and he always, I mean, for God's sake, someone has to reel me in. He very much keeps me balanced. And so he was the one that really pointed out this. When the Great Recession happened, what I saw in my school district or around my state was people were, suffering, and they were losing their homes and they weren't able to afford their cars and whatnot. And as my husband puts it, I think that the general consensus was people felt they were losing things, but that teachers weren't.
Interesting.
Well, they lost their jobs, but like you still have your job. And you know this story. They go, I pay for your job, you know? And I think this hatred started brewing. So that's like 2008. So I started in 06 and I had 2 really great years.
That's more than some people get.
Exactly. I mean, I would tell every single teacher that we hired after 2008, like, I don't know how you're making it through a year, because at least I had 2 good years.
You're like, I'll always hold on to that. Those were some great years.
In those years, there was such a perfect combination of things. There were these teachers who had retired, but when they were still there, they taught in the 70s, and they were just so freaking happy to have us, and they mentored us, and they freaking had our back. Like, I never, ever for one day felt alone in my job in those 2 years. And I had a boss bitch. Her name is Monica. I fucking love that woman. Because we had a mentor teacher program and she was my mentor teacher. And I would just say like, I don't understand what's happening. She's like, I'm on it, you know, and that is a whole different job that way. And I was like, I can do anything. I've got a person who knows. And she also called me out on shit, you know. She's like, you misspelled this on your worksheet and you look like a fucking idiot, you know. And I'm like,
so valid.
I'm sorry.
Period.
100%. So then you had that framework, and then you had principals that also like retired a couple years later that were very old school, but like the principal I worked for in my first 2 years knew the name of every single student in our building. And that was because when they came in as 9th graders, he took the time to do it. And that sounds mind-blowing now because I don't even think the principal I worked for last knew the name of the staff. Actually, I know he didn't. I worked for a principal, one before him, who we had a staff member, and there's a whole racial thing here too, because we were mostly a white staff, and this particular teacher was black. And he would always say to her in the hall, thank you so much for being here today. And she said to me, does he say that to you? And I said, no. He thought she was a sub. And And she was a full-time teacher. And like for years, he was
Every day? Oh my god.
Thank you for being here today. Like
Holy
every
fuck.
day.
she works here every day.
Oh my god, that's horrible.
I know. And I go back to those first years, like, and this guy, he was like exactly what you would envision if you drew a principal. I'm talking about the one when I started. He was like this little like wrecking ball of a man, always sweaty.
Principals are sweaty a lot.
Just like literally sleeves rolled up, like in it, you know? And I just miss that so much because what was hired after that was so different. So then your day to day is so different then. Like, this is a foreign concept now, but you would schedule time in to do fun things. And it was okay if like there weren't learning targets for it. At one point in my career, I took my students to go see the Great Gatsby movie, which by the way, field trips are fucking nightmares.
I'm terrified. I will never go on one. This is awful, but COVID canceled the field trip I was supposed to take as a teacher for the first time that I was in charge of, and Loki was relieved.
It wasn't supposed to happen.
Me and those children didn't need to be at Hamilton. That's God. I know, I was really sad I missed Hamilton, but I was really stressed about being the point person for being in charge of 200 11th graders at Hamilton.
I love it.
They had to bring lunches. I couldn't handle it.
Well, honestly, the one time that I had that field trip from hell that I talked about at the Patreon hangout, that stung. So I did a field trip to the theater that I used to work at, and it totally was not what I thought it was when we went. We took 120 kindergartners and their parents, and it was like inappropriate. It was supposed to be like 45 minutes. It was like an hour and a half. It was horrible. And after that, I was like, I'm gonna take a back seat. I'm good. I don't want to do this.
No, I'm not a fan.
But you took them to the Great Gatsby.
That's so cute.
I'm sure they had a phenomenal time.
I bet they loved it.
So that's the thing, but all that's gone now. My students constantly were outside reading. I'm an outdoors person. I don't need a reason. Like, I just want you guys to do it somewhere else.
Mix it up.
Like, oh my God, how about the shade dwellers though, when you take the kids outside and they're like glued to the wall, like they've never seen sun. And I'm like, you guys, it's okay. You can, and they're like, no.
In the hoodies, they're like,
oh my God, they will never take the hoodies off. And I'm like, it's 90 degrees, y'all. And they're like, we're fine.
Yeah, they're pouring sweat into them.
They insist it's no big deal.
One time I just like took them for a walk, you know, like I was like, let's go for a walk because some of you are really clinging to the walls, you know? So we went, but those days are gone. I'm not allowed to take my students outside.
Why?
The most recent principal said that it was, considered a field trip.
To be out of doors?
Just to walk out the door. Yeah.
What?
The gaslighting, you know, because it was like, no, that's fine. No, you can do it. But I need you to write up.
It is such gaslighting. No, it's fine. You can do it. It's just going to be, such a pain in the ass. And
the way I would literally send in the field trip form with like an American Pediatric Society article about the benefits of sunlight for children, I'd be like, that's the purpose.
I love you.
See, I'm glad you said that though, because I think at some point that was me. Maybe that's still in me. I don't know. But like it went dormant, like for sure. I just died.
At what point did that happen? Is that like a year 5, a year 10? Like when does that light just finally extinguish out like a Yankee candle you put a lid on?
Those are like I do have an active restraining order against a student. That was a big
that would do it.
A big thing for me.
That would tank morale pretty rapidly, I would feel.
I'm sure people were like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Like
some people were like, wow, you would really ruin their future like that? Like I'm sure people blamed you for it.
Oh, 100%.
It's sickening.
Yeah. Also, they were very mad at me. Like the school was very mad at me
for being harassed.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, how dare you be harassed in our school? You better think before you do that shit again.
It's like when people die in Disneyland and they drag their body outside to declare them dead so that doesn't happen on Disneyland grounds. It's like that vibe.
No, that's not common knowledge.
I'm sorry. They do what now at Disneyland?
What?
Oh.
Is this why they were so mad when Ron DeSantis was like, you can't have your own police anymore?
Well, yeah, who's going to drag the corpses outside to declare them dead outside of the property?
Mickey.
This is not real.
No, dead ass.
I know Disney has a problem with people trying to spread ashes there. I know that that's like a very real issue that they face.
Okay, so Snopes says this legend is a tricky subject to tackle because it's based upon the fine and often confusing distinction between actual death and declared death. So you can die there, but then they will not declare you dead there.
Well, of course you can die there.
God just picks you up and throws you in the parking lot. Not in the mouse house.
Snopes has basically said, we can't prove that Disney attempts to get you off the property if you're dead or near death.
Snopes said there's one way to find out.
I'm unwell. Anyways, that's some extreme gaslighting that you endured in a traumatic already situation.
Yes.
And how do you
100%.
trust people like that to take care of you at work? You can't move forward from that shit. You can't go back.
Yeah, so that was one of the places that the light definitely extinguished. I don't know. I'm sure there were more, but that one sticks out.
Yeah.
That would do it.
That was my Disney death.
I'm curious about, you mentioned like the administrators change just in not like the literal person, but in like their working style. Did you notice an increased amount of gaslighting? Like, does it appear that the district took a harder stance on that?
Well, first of all, they all knew each other.
Perfect.
That's a bad sign.
They're in cahoots.
They were church friends.
The worst kind of friend.
For public school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all going to affirm each other. They're going to be like, yes, this is a good, yes, do that.
You are acting with the Lord by embezzling 12 grand that we're supposed to buy jerseys.
I love that you're so on the embezzling.
sensitive topic.
Wait, what embezzlement? You've been embezzled?
No,
Here she goes.
I was not personally embezzled, but it is very common in my district to find that funds that were supposed to be for, paying an interventionist, buying sports equipment, buying books, that sometimes somehow end up buying Gucci bags and Mercedes.
Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs.
Wires can get a little crossed in the finance department, and that is a problem facing many schools.
I
my
would be
gosh.
surprised if there was a school that there wasn't embezzlement going on.
Embezzlement aside, you did see an increase of gaslighting?
Yeah, they just came in as this unit. It was immediate. There was a crime that took place at a football camp. There were kids that were sentenced to jail time from the events at this camp, and this all happened at the same time. So they come in, this happens at this football camp. The school took a very clear stance on where they stood regarding that event at the camp. And then that is also on a personal level when I was pursuing a restraining order. Like, this all happened in the same time. So they are battling this very public thing, and then behind the scenes is little old me, like, scared for my fucking life and for my children's lives. It was just this horrible storm, and I can now see I would have never felt safe there. I never felt safe there. Why would I feel safe there? And how the hell, like, as my counselor would say, like, I don't know how you made it an additional, I think it was 3 or 4 years past that. I think I thought maybe I could outlast them. I don't know, but I couldn't, and I didn't. So
I mean, who would want to?
yeah. It wasn't some masterminded plan. Like, evidence was brought to me that was fucking terrifying. I went to administration. I was told to go to the police. I went to the police. I now know that they told me to go to the police as like oh, why don't you take that to the police? I went to the police, and the police were like, holy shit, you need a restraining order. Hadn't even crossed my mind. And I was with my husband, and we're in the police station. We had gotten a sitter for our kids. I mean, I felt like somebody was drowning me, like just pulling me down. I mean, it was like really one of those moments where you're moving, but like other people are moving you. The police officer's like, since it's Saturday, you won't be able to be seen by a judge until Monday, but on Monday you go. And of course, what do we do as teachers? I'm like, I don't know if I can go on Monday.
I have to get a sub, and it's such a
You're
pain
like,
in the
I have
ass.
to teach Shakespeare.
I have to make sub plans.
Damn, it's our Shakespeare day. It was probably an Edgar Allan Poe plan.
You wanted to be there then, I understand.
Oh, he and I
Like this, baby.
I was like, can you please haunt me? Like, just
Come into my body, Edgar.
yeah, so then I went to the court. Like, I went by myself to the court, sat in the hallway, and then I was seen that day, like, sworn in. I gave what I had just told the administration, what I had told police, and then I left with this temporary restraining order. And she's like, because it's juvenile court, you have to come back because juveniles have to be handed restraining orders in court. Adults do not. And I was just like, I mean, I never wanted to see this person again in my entire life. And I was like,
So you have to be in court, and they have to come to court together.
yes, with a
It's
parent.
a flawed system.
Because the juvenile.
Still.
The way that the court system just insists on re-victimizing people.
I know.
Like, the way that our system is literally just like, oh, you had a bad experience? Maybe we could give you a similar one. Like, do you guys want to hang out again?
Here's the best part. I actually had to go to court with this person twice. I had to have a lawyer, by the way. I had to have a lawyer.
I'm sure that was very affordable and that your your district was thrilled to give you the money for it.
What money?
Exactly. They said, maybe try a GoFundMe. Maybe do a Donors Choose project.
We were not allowed in my district to do Donors Choose.
I knew that was what you were going to say. I knew.
And we were not allowed to do Teachers Pay Teachers.
Oh, that is a fucking bullshit. No teachers pay teachers?
Yeah.
As sellers or buyers or both?
Sellers.
Oh, you could be buyers? My friend works at a school where you can't even be a buyer. She said they don't really notice if you do it, though.
Of course, they don't know what they're talking about. They won't recognize it if it hit them in the face. So anyway, and then that student was still in the building with me. And then, of course, so was his younger brother. And it was rough.
So sorry. And you stayed there for a few years after that, too?
Yeah, because it all happened when they started. And then I think I taught 3 years under them and left.
I'm assuming, obviously not at that school, but there's nothing that would make you go back to teaching and you're happy with your choice now.
We're not even going to ask that question. I mean, what are you doing now?
So I am an educator at a zoo. It's a very non-traditional job, but I do get the classroom fix. I don't grade. But a lot of the programs I work on are grant programs. So they really need educators to write lessons that adhere, because you're trying to please the people who are giving the money. And then the great thing is when I write my lessons, I write our animals into the lessons, and then they travel with me and go to the schools. It's this little slice of a dream job.
That is so fun.
How do you find a job like that?
Is it on Craigslist or?
Did you know a guy?
So I was on Tinder.
I was like, oh my God, you know Lizard Mike too?
Reptile people, man. Which actually, now that I'm working with reptiles, I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to tell every snake guy that they're kind of right. They are cool.
That's where you lose me.
I was talking to my friend today. Her child is deathly afraid of reptiles. And I was like, listen, we were never meant to cohabitate with reptiles. She has a very strong she's a survival instinct.
Here's the crazy thing is, like, I have to really fight to think of like all the kids that I'm going to be talking to, because I'm telling you what, I don't get the draw of a turtle. I bring a freaking turtle and the kids are like, turtle! And like every time.
I love a turtle.
I'm telling you, I don't know a classroom where a turtle hasn't like blown my
I was
mind.
taken to a turtle pond in Beverly Hills by a dude for a date once. He read me like a book. He was like, you're going to love this.
Oh my God.
And it was literally a pond behind a bank that just had a bunch of turtles. Actually, my ex-boyfriend did that too. 2 men have taken me to turtle ponds.
Were they the same turtle pond or no?
No, they were different, but they were both in Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills sign has a turtle pond, but the other boy took me to a small, more secluded turtle pond.
A more private turtle pond, if you will, for a more intimate experience.
I love what they do.
I wish I had known. I would have brought one of the turtles.
We would have gotten
We
nothing
have Pandora, Shelly, and Jade.
Oh my God, what cute names.
Yeah, how did you find this job?
I think I manifested this job. I remember going to the zoo with my daughter when she was a baby, and I would just see people that worked there, and I was like, why can't I teach here? I would say that to him all the time. I'm like, I want to teach here. And he's like, well, the job doesn't exist. You know, this is the one good thing that came out. Well, there's a lot of good things that came out of it, but at this very low time, I don't know if you've ever, I'm sure you have, what you will find are the people that move toward you during those times, and like just how great those people are. I had this colleague, she just reached out and she's like, Jessica, like, this is your time to do anything. Like, what do you want to do? And I went on 2 different sites and they both were hiring these positions.
Whoa.
Spooky.
I just got a shiver.
Well, you know what's even weirder? Don't judge me for this, but the death that like rocked me and my family was our dog. Like, it just fucking, it killed us. It still does. It's, oh my God, it fucking wrecked our family. On her, what would have been her 16th birthday, I get an interview request.
Oh
Stop.
my gosh.
Yeah, I know. I was debating between like which 2 of the zoos, and I applied for both. And then as soon as I got this interview request on her birthday, I was like, I hear you.
Yeah.
I got it. You know, she died in January and I left. I actually, what is today? I left March 13th was my last day.
Oh my gosh.
Happy anniversary!
Happy anniversary to me.
You've made it a full trip around the
Thank
sun.
you.
Oh my
I
goodness.
have. Yeah. Yeah. But it really does feel like I have always been taking steps to get here. I don't know. It's very bizarre.
This is beautiful. I like your turtle teacher job.
Don't forget about the
And
crow.
Never
Of course,
forget
the
about the crow.
And you get to take them with you and go to the school. Oh my God. And like,
They go with
Does
me.
the crow go to the schools?
Jinx can only do on-grounds programs because he won't wear jesses, which jesses are attached to the feet. He won't wear his jesses. He just rips them off. So because he won't wear them, we really can't take him out. He can be on your hand, but he could also just fly
Honestly,
away.
I'd rather stay at my house too. I get
it's
it.
valid for
Probably
that.
has a whole setup there.
You picked like the fucking Olympics day of school is now your everyday. Like the day where the kids are having the most fucking fun.
That's what
it's
I
like
said.
good vibes
Yes.
only. Lizard Mike is here.
Yes.
That's your everyday now. You picked the best part of like being a teacher and you were like, I'll take every day of that.
I say this all the time. Like, I remember the people coming into my school and I was like,
Take me with you.
I could give one speech and knock their socks off, but I have to give 180 fucking speeches and they're not listening. Now I'm like, who wants to see a snake? You know, like,
When you go on a field trip, you're counting to 27 like every 30 seconds because you're so fucking scared you're gonna lose one.
If I could put high schoolers on those little backpack leashes, I would.
Oh, absolutely, I bet.
No, high schoolers would like somehow, like I said, do crime. Like you
100%.
Be like, oh, you're on a bus to another city? That checks out.
when I took the kids to the Great Gatsby, I don't even know. Again, the universe just gifted me this. We had so many goddamn buses leaving the fucking mall. I see these two girls get off the bus and run in the mall. And I'm like, what the hell? So we stop the bus. They're not on my bus. And I was like, I turn around and I'm like, everyone stay on this bus or, you know, whatever. And I run in and I find the girls in the mall and I go, what are we doing? They're like, we want to go shopping.
Like, what the fuck do you think
and I'm
this
like,
is?
Get on the fucking bus.
I have a vivid memory of sprinting through Times Square on a school trip because I wanted to go shopping and I had like 15 minutes to do so. Of course, we didn't buy anything, but I was like, I need to get to the Juicy Couture store.
This is why I don't do field trips. You're like, you've been here twice this week already. Like, let's get in the fucking bus.
I'm going to blow your minds. For, I think, 4 years, I took seniors to Washington, D.C. for 3 nights.
Oh, an overnight, I'm terrified. You'd have to pay me $100,000 to take kids on an overnight trip anywhere.
Well, this is what happened. I was 22, 23, 24, and I was like, okay. You know, I was also coaching.
You're deep.
It was before like everyone had cell phones, and my freaking like hotel room phone rang
Oh, no.
in the middle of the night. I'm like, this
Immediately know.
cannot be good. So I immediately know, and I'm like, hello. Oh, can you come to our room? No, I can't. No, so-and-so's sick. Number one, I'm sure you're drunk. 100%.
Do I look like a doctor?
And I was like, I will go to the room, and that is it. So, like, I walked to the room, and I stood at the door, and I was like, do you guys have any Sprite? I don't know, because I'm like 3 years older than you, and I still throw up and don't know what to do.
You were like, I call my mom, so do you guys want to call her? We can see what she has to say.
Mom, one of my students is throwing up. What should I do?
That's what I would have done.
Here, talk to my mom.
I would have opened like Chat GTP and been like, teenager drunk throwing up.
Oh my God, that's got to be ruining high school classrooms and middle school classrooms,
I was
right?
thinking about that after we talked about it 2 episodes ago. I was like, are they writing essays with it? I bet they're writing essays
So
with
I
it.
saw, there's an English teacher I follow on Twitter. She was talking about that a kid turned it in, and she said she's gotten a couple of them turned in, and she said that she can usually tell when it's written by Chat GTP. Jessica Kirkland. Highly recommend her Twitter. She is funny and talks about teaching high school English. But she said the Chat GTP essays, at least in her experience so far, have been pretty obvious. Good.
Okay, I'm just glad I'm not there to figure that out.
Yeah,
For real.
I wouldn't want to deal with that either.
Is it GTP or GPT? Who cares? Tomato. What do those letters even mean? They don't mean anything. But I think that it's so cool because I remember taking my kids to your field trip and I didn't have to count to 27 once because they all were sitting there looking at the animals, participating. I'm like, oh, where's this? I put on a damn good show for
Yes,
you
you
every
do.
day.
Yes,
and
you
you
do.
don't give me half of this hoopla that you're giving the what the fuck, the armadillo. But, you know, I respect it because I'm also sitting there like, woohoo!
But you know what? I always try to give shout outs to the teachers because God knows
You got
I
it.
have to.
You're a celebrity in that classroom.
Yes, I know.
You deserve that. You've gone through a lot of shit. Now you get to be the celebrity, and those are the people we want in those positions of power.
Exactly.
I don't think I have any power, but thank you.
Over the kids, you do. Over the crow, well, not the crow, because it takes its own shoes off. Over the turtle, I think you're definitely...
They're more shackles than a shoe, I think.
They're like a leather leash. I do like the idea of him like crossing his legs and like untying a shoe.
Do you have any other words of wisdom for the teachers still out there, the teachers that have left, are thinking about leaving?
Honest to God, it's cliche, but just like keep an eye on yourself. At any moment, your school administration will throw you under the bus. Like at any moment. It does not matter if you're a saint, they will do it. And that's the thing, like I had a lot of success. My students loved loved me. I loved them. I wasn't going anywhere. And it didn't matter. They still came after me and just made my life a living hell. And I'm pretty tough. So like, I do feel like if they could do it to me, they could do it to anyone. And I think there's freedom in knowing that. There's freedom in knowing you're not as tied down as you might think. But I guess there's also fear in that too, of like, at any moment, these people will take care of themselves and themselves only. So therefore, you watch out for you, or your group, you watch out for each other. And I think you do need to have like people who will have your back, or at the very least have support at home.
That is really good advice. Keeping an eye on yourself is so much easier said than done. Having other people to check you can really help too.
Yeah, not just hopping in the bubble bath.
Then you're just wet and sad.
Wet and sad. Wine drunk, maybe. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. This was fabulous.
Thank you for coming on here. You're awesome. You're the zoo lady that comes to the school. That's like the definition of awesome. Those 2 years pre-recession, education had it on lock.
06 to 08, baby.
Those are the golden years.
Oh, man.
Thank you for joining us in Teacher Quit Talk.
We hope everyone on your way to work right now, if you want to quit, go for it. Maybe one day you could also be the person that brings the reptiles to the school.
Nothing matters. If you liked this episode, give it a little lovin' on the internet.
If there's a thumbs up, click it. If there's not one...
And if you like us so much, we also have a Patreon that for $4 you can get all manner of things. Like
if you want to see hours of footage of Fraz and I drinking Chili's and margaritas in the middle of the day and recording a podcast at 11:30 a.m.
Not 11:30 a.m. It's 7 in the morning when I do that shit. Anyways, we love you so much. Kisses. Live, laugh, love. Bye.
Love you, girls. Kisses to you.